Andy from 1A is taking this Cadillac Escalade ESV for a test drive. The vehicle's owner says the car ride feels like his tonsils are rattling. Boom! How are Andy's tonsils? Now Andy's doing the water bottle test to show how stiff the suspension is. Look at that bumpy ride. Better get this vehicle into the garage.
It's pretty obvious there's something wrong with the suspension in this vehicle. When you're going down the road, it feels like there's no shocks in the front, it's just riding on 4x4s. Now, most of the time when shocks fail, you have excessive bounce. So you hit a bump and the vehicle just floats along like it's on a cloud. And sometimes the suspension can fail in the opposite way where it actually stiffens up. So when you hit a bump, the vehicle has no travel at all and it just feels very stiff. Now this vehicle has MagneRide, which is an electronically controlled suspension. When you're going on the highway or some turning maneuvers, when you need extra suspension, it stiffens up. And when it needs to be softer over slower speeds, over bumps, it's gonna be looser so that it feels like you're riding on a cloud. The first thing you're probably gonna notice is the ride quality has significantly changed in your vehicle. Then on your dash, you may notice a service suspension light. Now we're going to push down on the suspension and see if we get any movement. And this vehicle is very tight. Should not be like this. This is basically like pushing down on a Corvette, and this is not a Corvette. You should be able to get some movement out of it. Now if you get too much movement and then you let go and the vehicle's still bouncing for more than 1.5 bounces, that's a good indication you need front shocks or struts as well. And this vehicle actually has a little bit of creaking coming from the suspension when we're bouncing it up and down. Now from underneath the vehicle, we want to take a good look at the shock themselves and see if there's anything leaking. It's pretty obvious in our situation, we have leaking shocks. Now you could also check for any physical damage to the shocks that would cause an issue where they need to be replaced. So if your shocks or struts are leaking or the suspension's stiff and your tonsils are falling out, maybe you have a service suspension light on, you're gonna have to replace these shocks or struts. You can get those at 1aauto.com. So let's go ahead and put some new shocks in. I'm gonna remove the wheel. Remove the 2 lower shock bolts. Now we can see on the top of the shock where the MagneRide connector is. We want to disconnect that connector. This is where, when the computer sends a signal, that's where it will stiffen up the shock or strut if you have struts. Just disconnect that. That slides off. Now we're going to put this piece on the new one. There is also available conversion kits if you didn't want to stick with the MagneRide. You're just going to not have the ability to have a stiffer or softer suspension. Let's pop off the wiring harness. Now we can access all 3 nuts. And slide it down. And it comes right out. Slide the new shock assembly in place. Just make sure I have a nut with me. Once you get one nut on, then you can let go. I'll just get the other one started. Underneath, I'm just going to pry the lower control arm down and just pry that in place. There we go. Put the 2 lower bolts in. Torque those down while I'm there. And we'll torque the nuts. This is the part where we're going to hook up the connector for the electronic suspension. Now if you got one of the kits that eliminates this, you won't have to do this part. you're gonna get a connector that has a resistor in it, and that's gonna fool the computer in thinking that the electronic suspension is still there, and that's how you keep all the warning lights off. On the old shock, there is an extension adapter that I'm gonna have to remove. I'm just gonna use a wrench. Now there is another nut underneath there holding this whole assembly together, so you don't wanna take that bottom nut off, just the extension. So I'm just gonna use a wrench, loosen that up. And we'll put that on the new one. Now we're gonna take this cap off. You wanna leave that cap on when installing because you don't want any dirt and debris to get in there. Pull that off. Take this extension, slide that over. I'll tighten that down. Now we're gonna take this adapter, very carefully slide it over the center and lock it in place. There's a little lock on the side. Find the connector, it only goes one way, and connect the connector. And it's locked down. The wiring harness, make sure that goes in place. And it's secure.
Both shocks have been replaced. Andy's going straight to the water bottle test. Got it.
You can see with the new front shocks, we have a lot more suspension travel. We don't have the binding up issue of the front shocks, and we don't have that noise anymore. All right, that was a quick and easy job. So if your teeth are rattling while you're going over bumps and you have electronic suspension, or you want to convert it to a non-electronic suspension, you can get those parts at 1aauto.com. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to our channel, ring the bell, turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Now we're gonna push down on the, oh, sorry. Whoa, 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 sorry. Jump the gun, bud. All right. This is the part when we're gonna hook up the
You think it'll be smooth? I mean, you're gonna make it smooth, but yeah.
Perfect.